platinum sponsor of the Gaming Summit this year. We'd like to thank you for your support and looking forward to this conversation. So I guess the logical place to start is tell us a little bit about yourself and Nuvei and what's happening with you guys in Canada these days, please.
Sure. Well, Chuck, let me start by saying, thank you for having us as well. We're proud members now of the Canadian Gaming Association. We're very excited to sponsor the event. We think it's a very important event, and it's a pleasure to speak with you today. A little bit about Nuvei. Nuvei is a large global payment technology company. We operate in over 200 markets around the world. We have over 470 different payment types, all available through a single integration in 150 currencies, in addition to 40 cryptocurrencies. And really our goal, Chuck, is to make the world a local marketplace. And we do that by connecting our customers with their customers so that we allow them to not only pay, but get paid in a very safe environment and obviously in a very timely manner. So really what we're trying to do is take the complications, take any of the issues that surround payments out of the hands of our operators and our partners around the world, let them worry about their business and their customers, and let us kind of worry about the payments and making sure that when someone comes to their website to make a transaction, they're able to do so any way they want.
Okay, got it. Obviously very timely with everything these days on the security side and the cashless side. So it sounds like, not only are your offerings excellent, but the timing of delivering those offerings is perfect.
Yeah, look, we're excited to see what happens ultimately in Canada. There's obviously a ton of momentum, not only for the sports betting bill, but following closely what's happening in Ontario, working closely with the regulators, working closely with the provinces. We're very excited. We think that we have a great solution for any Canadian operator that's going to be licensed in the country or in the specific provinces. And one of the things that people often overlook is just how important payments is to the business. So this is a gaming conference. We're talking about gaming and casinos and sports betting, but without payments, there is no business, right? And so for the more established operators, they know this. They've been doing it a very long time. They realize the importance. Some of the newer players kind of leave it to the end. And we think it's a mistake. We think that we have the right tools to help people get ready and ultimately make sure, like I said, they're spending all this money marketing, spending all this money trying to attract new customers to their websites or to their properties. You need to make sure that when they get there, they have a way to not only get paid, but to also receive their payments, should they win.
Got it. So a lot of operators with us today, may not be that far down the path in terms of looking at different payment options. So why is gaming unique when it comes to payments, the whole industry?
Um, how much time do you have? No, it's gaming. Look, the thing about gaming is it's a highly regulated industry, as you know. Payments are a highly regulated industry. There's Gaming's been around, from an online perspective for close to 20 years in different markets around the world. Obviously, outside of the government-run sites in Canada, it's fairly new should this legislation, pass. Why is it unique? You're dealing with so many issues from a licensing perspective. You're dealing with the card brands, Visa and MasterCard. You're dealing with certain issuing banks, the acquiring banks. And there's been a history of, specifically as it relates to card processing, from a risk appetite perspective, some of the card issuers have decided to block online gaming transactions. And why is that important? It goes back to my previous point that I mentioned. If you're spending all this money marketing, attracting customers to your website, and they can't ultimately pay you or pay to play or make a deposit, that's a big problem. So it becomes complicated in that working with them on a multi-acquiring strategy, working with them on having alternative payment methods. If credit and debit cards are not working, do they have, in Canada, we have the Interact rails, we have the e-transfer rails, money transfers, etc. So making sure that the operators are well equipped so that they can make sure that a customer comes to their site, they have a way to get paid and to pay. So it's always, the money in and the money out, which is obviously very important. But there's a lot of nuances. Every credit card transaction has what's called an MCC code, a merchant category code. And traditionally, the code for gaming, in Canada is 7995. Most of the issuers block these transactions. So what happens when a customer is used to using their Visa card, they take it out and they can't use it? Well, don't tell them to try it again if it's not going to work, right? You want to present them with an alternative to ensure the highest possible acceptance rates. And then it's working with these issuing banks and working with the card brands to see what we can do in terms of improving that acceptance rate.
Okay, got it. So I guess the next logical question would be, what's your suggestive advice from a payment operations perspective as an operator is looking to set this up? What would you suggest they do? Where do they start? What processes do they follow to make sure this is set up the right way?
Look, we've had a number of conversations already with these operators that are preparing for what's to come in Canada, right? So there's a number of operators today that are absolutely what we feel is taking the right approach in terms of setting this up before that any of the bills are passed, or before Ontario opens up. They're making sure that when it does happen, they're ready to hit the ground running. So my advice obviously is to secure all of your payment partners today, is to make sure that you're not only having one form of payment, that you have multiple. Again, when you look at, the most important thing is ensuring a safe environment for your customers, but also making sure that you have the highest acceptance rate possible. So working with a group that has the experience, Nuvei, right? Nuvei's been in this for close to 15 years in the online gaming space in regulated markets. I've personally been doing it for 21. We talk about our excitement to be part of the Canadian Gaming Association. We do the same thing in the US. We're part of the American Gaming Association. I sit on the board there, formerly part of the Fantasy Sports and Gaming Association. Why is this important? It's important that you choose a partner that understands the industry that you're going in. People are not selling t-shirts in this case. You're providing payments for online gambling and online sports betting. It's a very different beast, if you will. And so choosing someone that has that experience, choosing someone that understands, choosing someone that has the partnerships, and that is working closely with the regulators, so that, and with the associations, to ensure that all the interests are aligned. And to me, that's very important. Working with a partner that's done it before, working with a partner that's in the space, working with a partner that understands what's going on, uh, to me is key.
Got it. Okay. So maybe shift gears a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about cashless, if you don't mind. Trend, or is this going to stay? What do you think? You got your crystal ball out. Where are we in a year, 3 years, 5 years? Where do you think?
Look, I think that absolutely some form of it's going to stay. I think the pandemic obviously sped that up, and a lot of the land-based brick and mortar casinos had no choice, if they wanted to reopen, to start shifting towards a cashless world. Um, Look, we look at cashless almost as an extension of what we do, right? Because when you think about cashless, cashless isn't just a matter of using a device when you're on property, but it's also funding your account before you get to the property, which ultimately aligns with our strategy of a digital first mentality. 87% of our business is digital today. But even when you talk about cashless, how are you funding your account? You're doing so through your smartphone. You're doing it perhaps on a website before you get to the property, which ultimately is a digital transaction. So you have this convergence of online and offline that's happening, but ultimately the funding mechanisms and the payment mechanisms are really digital transactions, which is obviously our focus. So to answer your question, I think cashless is here to stay. I think there's always going to be people that want to use cash, and that should be an option. By the way, whether that's brick and mortar or online, people may want to do that. And so to us, it kind of goes back to our original my original comment at the top, where we want to make sure that the operators always have the tools to accept payments and to pay their customers in any form that they want, right? So if their customers want to pay with cash, let's enable that. If their customers want to use their card to ultimately play on a cashless machine on property, let's enable that. And if they want to pay with any other deposit method that's available to them when they're online, let's enable it. It's all about connecting our customers with their customers and making sure that they have the best solutions possible.
Yeah, when you're looking at risk, you're looking at security, you're looking at all kinds of issues that might go sideways. I think a lot of this advice is helpful. So with respect to sort of online versus land-based, you were talking about that earlier. What are some of your suggestions on how, the bricks and mortar, the land-based folks that might be looking at online can incorporate any advice or suggestions on that front?
Like I think you're seeing it. I always kind of point back to the U.S. So Canada's been a little different so far with the way the market's been regulated. Obviously, just with the provinces themselves being able to operate online, so it's a little bit different than what we've seen down south. But if you look at what's happened there, it's choosing partners again, not only from a payments perspective, but having the land-based casinos partner with well-established operators who understand what they're doing, who have been doing it in regulated markets for a decade or more, is really key. This isn't something that is really easy for someone to just jump into, in 2021. Not only again on the payment side, but on the player account management system, the software, the content that's there. So I think you've seen it already, Chuck. You've seen it with the provinces themselves. You've seen it in the U.S. with the land-based casinos partnering with the online companies, and it's been working very well. So I expect to see the same thing. I expect to see the same thing here in Canada.
That's great. Okay, one final question. You guys have 15 plus years of experience. You're in 200 different countries, without naming names, of course. Is there any stories that you could share with Canadians online with us today? Some lessons learned, some suggestive tips, anything that you've seen that might be worth sharing, please?
Yeah, listen, for us, it's all, I keep coming back to our customers and getting them what they want. And so, not necessarily a story, but really for us, it's a matter of working with them, right? Canada is just another market for a lot of the operators that are going to be working here. And so working with that partner, uh, that understands payments, that understands also what's happening in Canada, but also what happens when you want to expand to the US, where there's a completely different list of, payment methods that people want to use. And then what happens if you go to LATAM? And then in Europe, and usually it's the reverse, right? People have been in Europe and they're coming here. Every country has different, payment types. So not to be narrow-minded and short-sighted and think like, I only need to know what's happening in this country and in this province because something else might open up. So I go back to choosing a payment partner that's done this. You mentioned the 15 years, someone that understands it, someone that you can grow with from market to market, from country to country. Um, I keep going back to that experience standpoint. So look, we're excited about the market. We think there's tremendous potential. We're hoping that everything goes well, in the next couple of weeks and months. But
Fingers
we're very
crossed.
excited. Fingers crossed, exactly.
That's great. Neil, again, thank you for being with us today. And for those of you watching online, we'll provide you with Neil and Nuvei's contact information if you're interested in reaching out to him. And Neil, on behalf of our partners at the Gaming Association, thanks for being with us today and for the chat. This has been great.
Yeah, it's our pleasure. Thanks for having me, and I hope everyone has a great show. Thanks, Chuck.